welcome to our annual Hall of Fame induction. This is actually an evening that the Alumni Association meets as well. So I'm going to, before we get into the Hall of Fame induction program, I'm going to introduce Laura Sidursky. She is the president of the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School Alumni Association, and I know one thing she's going to do is to tell you that none of you can leave until you join and are members of the Alumni Association. I'm only kidding you.
The Alumni Association is almost an unknown event in town. We have very few members, but we work very, very hard. And I have to also tell you, we have over 400 members who receive our annual newsletter with news about the school, but very few of those people, even though they live in Scotch Plains, Fanwood, and Westfield, come to our meetings. However, I do want to say thank you to, of course, Marie Leopard and her O'Brien, who do the newsletter. We have a treasurer who has moved to her home after Sandy destructed it, Kathy Van Horn. I have also Nancy Checchio, who helps me with our newsletter mailing, which we have to go to Union with bulk mail. Scotch Plains doesn't even want our mail. And then I also have my sister Rose, who bakes brownies for every meeting, and Michael Lober, who's there whenever I need him. So you can see what a small group we are, but we're very, very productive. And on the table, I have membership applications if you'd like to join the association. We only meet once a year in May, but it's a good meeting because that's when we give away our scholarships. This year we gave $500 to twin sisters, the Duke girls, and one to Vincent Ceccarino. And the parents of both of these recipients are alumni of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. So that makes us feel good. I also would like to announce that Alicia Jensen is a student who's working on a project about alumni. And she'd like to meet with some of the people here tonight who would help her with her project. Other than that, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Heise and the school support for they're doing a lot of their work for the Alumni Association. And we look forward to a nice evening tonight. Refreshments are benefit of the Alumni Association.
Thank you. Okay, and before we begin, I do want to recognize one person. That's Marie Leopard, and I believe she's sitting to my right, because without Marie, this evening would not be possible. So, Marie, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to get right into our induction program. Some of the inductees are here, some are not. One we will be inducting posthumously. In some cases, they have a family member here or a friend. In some cases, not, since they, Michael Swerdlick, for example, lives in Los Angeles. I spoke with him the other day. So for some of the inductees, we have students that will be recognizing them. So I'm going to invite Bianca Di Maria. Bianca is a senior here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, and she's going to just provide you with some information regarding Michael Swerdlick, who's a 1974 graduate of this high school. Bianca.
Hi everyone, I'm Bianca, and I'm going to introduce Michael Swerdlick. Okay, so Scotch Plains Fanwood High School would like to recognize Michael Swerdlick into the Alumni Hall of Fame. Before he became a Hollywood screenwriter and a successful lawyer, he was a graduate here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. He went on to graduate from American University, class of 1978, and then on to Pepperdine Law School, class of 1981. Here at SPF, he was the vice president of his senior class in 1974. He was a well-liked student who was outgoing and funny. At American University, he was elected student activities chairman and was his college concert promoter and producer. He put on major 1970 music acts like Peter Frampton, Foreigner, and many others. Michael then attended Pepperdine University in Malibu, California. He graduated and passed the bar exam in 1981. He was with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office when he decided to try his hand in the entertainment business. He went on to work with the famous William Morris Agency mailroom, and then he became a talent agent in 1983, where he worked with upcoming actors like Sharon Stone, Heather Locklear, Janine Turner, and Kevin Costner. Not only that, but he represented big 1980 actors like Tyne Daly, Robert Blake, Michael Phillips, and Robert Reed. Michael has successfully written 3 feature films, including Can't Buy Me Love, for Touchstone and Disney. That was his first script that he wrote, and it was entitled Boys Rent Girls. It was brought by Touchstone and Disney and eventually became the hit film Can't Buy Me Love. It was on many top 10 lists for greatest teen movies of all time. The movie stars a young and McDreamy Patrick Dempsey. It was the first outside acquisition in the history of Walt Disney Company. Not only did he write Can't Buy Me Love, but also Class Act for Warner Brothers and Love Don't Cost a Thing, also for Warner Brothers. Not only was he a successful screenwriter for movies, but Michael was also successful in TV shows, including shows like Doggy Howser, MD for ABC and Fox TV. Doogie, sorry, I apologize. Sorry. My bad. Also, Beverly Hills 90210 for Fox TV, shows like Who's the Boss for ABC and Song, and Boy Meets World for ABC and Disney. Michael also successfully produced 2 television movies, The Whereabouts of Jenny, starring Ed O'Neill, and The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, starring Kirk Cameron. Michael had the chance to write for 2 of the most successful child-teen stars of this generation, the famous Olsen twins. Michael wrote 3 multi-million selling videos and movies for Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, including Getting There, When in Rome, and The Challenge. All 3 of his Olsen movies were novelized by HarperCollins and sold 500,000 copies each, not just one, but all 3. When looking through his work, there's often Scotch Plains things in his material. In an episode he wrote for Beverly Hills 90210, there was a homecoming theme, and the float in the episode was the same exact float that SPFHS used for his homecoming in 1974. In another episode, he wrote, Ian Ziering answers the phone, and as a goof, he says, "Hello, Alfonso's Pizza," incorporating his favorite pizza place growing up in SPF. Michael has been recognized by the Los Angeles Times, Newark Star Ledger, Courier News, and Hollywood Reporter. His writings has brought laughter, smiles, and positive life lessons to millions of people across the world. Although he couldn't make it tonight, we still honor him, and SPFHS is lucky to be inducting him into the Alumni Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Michael, on all your hard work.
Thank you, Bianca. Very good job. As I indicated, I did speak with Michael earlier this week, and he had indicated and mentioned to me that every screenplay that he wrote, he included something regarding Scotch Plains Fanwood in that screenplay. And while he couldn't be here today, he did indicate that he does want to come to Scotch Plains Fanwood in the near future and speak with our students. So I invited him to especially speak with our Raider Television group, because they would certainly gain a great deal from his expertise. Okay, so we're going to move in. And by the way, we have the plaques here in order. And the Hall of Fame is located in the hallway right across from our cafeteria. So past inductees are on the wall, and ultimately these plaques will also be placed on the wall probably by early next week. And each year we will continue to add plaques to our Hall of Fame. All right, so we're going to move right into Jeffrey Hammonds. Jeffrey was a 1989 graduate of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, and another senior member of the senior class, Jim DeFrancesco, is here to talk about Jeffrey Hammonds. And then when Jim is done, Reggie Hammonds, Jeffrey's brother, will come up and speak for his brother. So we'll start with Jim DeFrancesco.
Hello, everyone. So baseball has and always will continue to be America's favorite pastime. It may not have felt like this lately with the Yankees in a bit of a slump, but the Mets have picked up the slack, thankfully. We saw this passion continue to thrive, however, here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, with our varsity baseball team reaching the sectional quarterfinals this year in the state's tournament. And tonight, we're honoring one of the people who helped to embed the tradition of success for the baseball program here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, Jeffrey Hammonds. Hammonds graduated in the class of 1989 and went on to attend Stanford University in California. During his time at Stanford, Hammonds would go on to achieve a number of accomplishments. He was named Freshman of the Year in 1990 and broke the Pac-10 record for stolen bases in a single season, stealing 102 bases in 174 games. He was named an All-American in 1990 and in 1992. In his 1992 season, he would end the regular season batting .380 with 33 stolen bases in 47 games, leading the Stanford Cardinals to the World Series, the College World Series. Hammonds was picked in 1992 by the Baltimore Orioles with the fourth pick in the 6th round, 2 picks ahead of Derek Jeter. Hammonds spent most of the 1992 year playing for the United States national team at the Summer Olympics in Barcelona. Between 1992 and 1993, Hammonds moved from the Orioles AA and AAA minor league baseball teams before being promoted to the majors in June of 1993. He batted .305 in 105 at-bats with the Orioles that season before injuries forced Hammonds to end his season early. Hammonds battled injuries throughout the 94, 95, and 96 seasons, bouncing between the minor and major leagues. He returned to the majors in 1997, playing in 118 games, scoring 71 runs with 105 hits, 21 home runs, and 55 runs batted in. Hammonds re-signed with the Orioles in 1998 before being traded to the Cincinnati Reds later that year. In 1999, Hammonds batted .279 with 17 home runs and 41 RBIs in 123 games, with 3 home runs in 1 game on May 20th. Following that season, Hammonds was traded to the Colorado Rockies. The 2000 season was his statistical best, where he batted .335 with 20 home runs, 106 RBIs, and 14 stolen bases. These numbers were enough to earn Hammonds a spot on the National League All-Star team. He also finished the season with the 4th highest batting average in Major League Baseball. Hammonds signed with the Milwaukee Brewers in 2001 to the largest contract the organization had ever approved to date. Injuries limited him to 49 games in 2001, but he came back to a hot start in 2002, batting .324 as of June 5th, before injuries continued to hold him back. Hammonds moved to the San Francisco Giants, where he spent the beginning of the 2003 season on the team's AAA affiliate. He was promoted in July and batted .277 with 3 home runs and 10 RBIs over 36 games, and batted 2 for 4 in the National League Division Series. After injuries shortened his 2004 season and a brief stint with the Washington Nationals, Hammonds retired in 2005. Despite a number of injuries, Hammonds was able to enjoy a 13-year professional career. His career averages included batting .272, 110 home runs, 824 hits, and 423 runs batted in. Hammonds' career shows the perseverance and dedications that all athletes aspire to have, especially the ones here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. Tonight, we honor him by inducting him into our Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. As I invite Reggie to come up, I will mention also, and I spoke with Jeffrey yesterday, and Jeffrey is also being inducted into the NJSIAA. That is the governing body of interscholastic athletics in New Jersey on December 7th. And I believe he's coming up for that. I know he's coming up for that. That is a great honor. It's rare to be inducted into the NJSIAA Hall of Fame, but Jeffrey will have that honor. So I invite Reggie to come up to the podium. Thank you for being here, Reggie.
Well, thank you, Jim, for that eloquent summary. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Jeffrey, I spoke to Jeffrey on Monday, and of course he is honored, humbled, and greatly appreciative of this award. He didn't tell me to mention a few people in particular. Dr. Heisey, principal. Ryan Miller. Is this on? Can you hear me? No. Okay, good. It should be turned up. It should be turned up. Okay. Can't hear. Now can you hear me? A little bit better. Okay. Dr. Heisey, Ryan Miller, and he would like to thank the teachers throughout the years, his coaches, and in particular, these 4 coaches, Brian Hum, Michael Christopher, Gene Schuler, and Joe Pendell, who followed him when he was only in 8th grade and was very instrumental in what he actually was able to get done. He did say that our parents in particular, he wanted to give a big thanks to, Ferdinand and Laverne Hammonds. If anyone knows my father, Ferdinand, he coached him, and he was dedicated throughout his entire career. If Jeffrey went 3 for 4, Ferdinand would say, okay, what happened to the one that got away? Take him in the backyard and actually throw green peas to him, little green peas, and say, hit these. My mother was very instrumental as well, and Jeffrey will vouch for that. She wouldn't say much, but our uniforms were always washed. Food was always on the table. And you always knew when you were in a slump, because what she would say is, okay, son, go home, get some rest, get ready for the game tomorrow, get something to eat, and relax. And those comforting words we heard throughout the years, and they were very, very important to all of us. Jeff would like to thank his brother Kenny. Jeffrey watched me play, but he really played with Kenny. And Kenny was the middle brother. And by playing with Kenny, who was 5 years older, made Jeffrey very competitive and gave him the kind of zest to go out there and compete at a higher level. And I think Kenny should definitely get some praise for that as well. Jeff, I'd like to thank God Almighty, from whom all blessings flow. And Jesus Christ, he gives the glory to. What I will say, and Jeff and I have talked about this many times, Scotch Plains is very dear to Jeff. His illustrious career that Jim talked about is very, very important, but Jeff left Scotch Plains and went to Stanford as a freshman and became All-American as a freshman. So he went straight from high school, went to Stanford, Pac-10, one of the best powerhouse college teams in the country, and became All-American as a freshman. I think that's a testimony to what Scotch Plains is all about. It prepared him properly and gave him the kind of skill set to go and actually produce right away at a big-time college, in a big-time conference, and actually be named one of the best college ball players in the nation as a freshman. And I think also it exemplifies Union County as well, the competition here in Union County, and what Union County has meant to Jeffrey just by competing against the top ball players in this county as well. So in closing, Jeff would like to say, once again, he's honored, humbled, he greatly appreciates this award, and in closing, go Blue Raiders forever.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you very much. I did hear Reggie mention Gene Schiller's name, and Gene is here this evening. Gene, if just point Gene out. Gene Schiller, who coached Jeffrey at one point, correct? Gene, yeah. All right. Okay, so our next inductee is Keith Lippert, and Keith is actually here this evening. So Dulce Amante, who's also a senior here at Scotch Plains Family High School, has a brief introduction for Keith, and then Keith will actually come up himself, and we'll give Keith an opportunity to speak. So Dulce, I invite Dulce up to the podium.
Hi. Vice Admiral Keith Lippert, we would like to
Can't hear.
Hello? Hello, testing. Yes? No, not yet.
Can't hear.
How do I... Hello? Okay, there you go. We would like to induct Keith W. Lippert into our Hall of Fame, and prior to being heavily involved in the United States Navy and its systems, Vice Admiral Keith W. Lippert graduated from Scotch Plains Fanwood High School in 1965. He then graduated from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, with a Bachelor of the Arts degree in mathematics in 1968. Also, in 1994, he attended the Senior Executive Program in National and International Security at John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. In 1990, he rejoined the Naval Supply Systems Command as the Deputy Commander of Financial Management with budget responsibility for a worldwide multi-billion-dollar supply system. Simultaneously managing the system, he was also responsible for the Naval's successful inventory reduction program. Vice Admiral Lippert has been very successful in his lifetime, and we thank him for not only the work he's done for our country, but for representing Scotch Plains Fanwood High School so well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dulce. So I invite Vice Admiral Lippert to come up and share his additional experiences.
Yeah. All right, let me start right from the start here. Can you hear me? Yes, good. Thank you, Dulcie, for the very kind introduction. And I also would like to say good evening and thank you to Dr. Heisey for all that you do here at this school. I know the challenges that you face, and everything I have seen, you've done this extraordinarily well, so thank you very much. I am deeply honored and humbled to be part of this group of 7 other Hall of Fame inductees. It means a lot to me, and I can't tell you how surprised I was when I found out about this. And I received notification from Marie Lippert. And in fact, after I got this email from her, I was so shocked, I called the front office here just to make sure that this wasn't some kind of prank. And they assured me that it was legitimate, and they've been trying to get a hold of me. So Marie, thank you for getting in contact with me, and certainly, more importantly, to answering all my dumb questions and making this honor all the more enjoyable, so thank you very much. One of the real nice things about events like this is that you get a chance to see people that you haven't seen for many, many years. And I'm going to call some of those people out tonight, but I wanted to start with one, or 2, I should really say. My family moved here from Cincinnati, Ohio in 1962, and we moved just a couple blocks up the street to Estelle Lane in Fanwood. And the very first person that came over to greet us was a lady who lived across the street, Jane Clausen, and brought along with her a lunch to welcome us to Fanwood, New Jersey. And after that, I got to know her husband, Doug. Doug and I coached baseball in the Fanwood Recreation Leagues together. I babysat for their children. And of course, when I contacted them about coming here tonight, they had us over for dinner. And so Doug and Jane are here tonight, and I wanted to personally thank you for all that you've done in your friendship. Raise your hand and be recognized. I graduated from Scotch Plains Fanwood High School in 1965, and I look back on my 3 years here with great fondness. I developed lifelong friendships with many of my classmates. For example, I played on the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School basketball team, and several of us still try to pick the NCAA basketball tournament winners in March of each year. And I might add, none of us are any good at it. I also look back and am thankful for the superb faculty at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. They made a significant contribution to my life because not only did they teach classes, but it was obvious that they cared about their students. One of those superb teachers is here tonight. Mr. Frank Quinn was not only my Latin teacher, but was my friend and mentor who emphasized hard work and results almost like a Marine Corps drill sergeant. Frank, would you please raise your hand and be recognized? Thank you. Mr. Ray Snitzer, who unfortunately just recently passed away, was an outstanding basketball coach who taught the values of hard work, determination, motivation, and preparedness. Mr. Jim Socken was a great baseball coach who also personally funded our entrance into summer baseball leagues and took us to Mets baseball games. Teachers like Mr. Robert Tilley, chemistry and physics. Who likes chemistry and physics, professors? Mr. Frank Petrula, baseball and basketball. And former Scotch Plains Fanwood principal, Dr. Terry Regal, economics, were also great models. I graduated from the Navy ROTC program at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, with no intentions of staying in the United States Navy. I soon discovered that I liked and respected the people with whom I was working and felt strongly about the mission of our Navy. During one of my many moves, I met my wonderful wife, Linda, who is here with me tonight. We have been married for a mere 44 years, and I knew after our first date that she was the only one for me. It just took me a little longer to convince her. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, all of whom are doing very, very well. I've served 38 years in the United States Navy, retiring as a 3-star admiral. My last duty station was as the director of the Defense Logistics Agency, a $40 billion organization providing logistic support worldwide to our troops and allies. I was the director for 5 years, and while I was there, I used every value, leadership skill, and technical knowledge that I had previously learned. During my naval career, I was fortunate to be the commanding officer of 6 different organizations and was honored to be inducted in several halls of fame at these organizations. In each induction ceremony, the reason for my recognitions were articulated, which included my leadership values and that I cared about my people. There is no doubt in my mind that these traits were directly attributed to what I learned at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. I want to thank each of you for attending tonight. May God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Admiral Lippert. Okay, our next inductee we induct posthumously, and that is Sir Peter Emery, and I invite Marie DiFrancesco up to the podium, who will speak for Sir Peter Emery.
Sir Peter, of course, was deceased in 2004. Sir Peter was deceased in 2004, but I want to tell you about him. I'm sorry that he doesn't know that he's being inducted. Sir Peter Emery was the class of 1943, and he was evacuated from London in the late 30s because of the bombings. His parents sent him and his younger brother to live with his aunt and uncle on Glenside Avenue in Scotch Plains. In high school, he was a year ahead of me, so I did know him. In high school, he was very outgoing, friendly to all, and he had a wonderful sense of humor, which many times the British people do. He was a repeat winner of the yearly oratorical contest in town. After graduation, he returned to England and he joined the RAF, staying with the RAF Volunteer Reserve until 1950. He attended Oxford University with Maggie Thatcher as his classmate. After graduating from Oxford, he entered the family business of manufacturing clothing and local politics. Upon election to Parliament, as a Conservative, he held that office for 42 years. His most lasting contribution to political life was the founding with Sir Geoffrey Howe of the Bow Group, the Conservative Party's think tank. Its parallel is that of the Fabian Society and the Labour Party. In 1982, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth upon recommendation of Maggie Thatcher for his work with children. Peter came back for high school reunions several times and was a very welcoming host when his classmates were visiting in England. As an aside, some years ago I spotted a magazine article on an interesting bridge quartet which played internationally. Peter and Malcolm Forbes as partners, playing against Omar Sharif and his partner. Those of us who knew Peter are very proud of his accomplishments.
Okay, our next inductee is Pat DeNizzo, and I just realized that we missed an I on Pat DeNizzo's last name, so we're going to fix it on the plaque for, not tonight, but before it goes up on the wall. Okay? Pat DeNizzo, I met Pat DeNizzo quite a few years ago when he was trying out for the Somerset Patriots. And he did a feature here at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School and brought Joan Jett with him as well. But it's been a few years since I had a chance to talk or interact with Pat. But once again, Marie, before Pat comes up, I invite Marie DiFrancesco to come up, and she will introduce Pat DeNizzo to everyone.
Thank you.
Pat DeNizzo, class of 1973, is a man of many faces. High school wrestler, rock band leader, candidate for the U.S. Senate, baseball player, and TV documentarian. After high school, he studied at Middlesex Community College and NYU. A brief stint with his father's waste management company followed. After playing in several cover bands, Pat was inspired to form his own band, the Smithereens. He joined with New Jersey high school students Dennis Dyken, the drums, Jim Babjack, and I'm probably not pronouncing these names correctly, guitar, and Mike Missaros, bass. By the end of 1980, they had independently released Girls About Town, an EP featuring 4 songs with girls in the title. For the next 3 years, the group played around New Jersey and New York. On the strength of college airplay, as well as MTV's airing of Blood and Roses, the album became a hit, leading to a major label contract with Capitol. An extensive tour followed. Blood and Roses was used for the theme song of the movie Dangerously Close. This band has remained popular for over 27 years with a series of 9 studio albums on the Capitol, BMG, and Excelsior labels, and a live album from the Music Midtown Festival in Atlanta. They're known for original rock albums and creative adaptations of classic icons. He started a songwriting service which puts fans' lyrics to music. He deserves to be inducted not only for his Smithereens success, but for his motivations regarding politics and ball playing. In 2000, Pat ran for the U.S. Senate, ending up in 4th place. In 2006, he went to Florida to begin spring training with the Somerset Patriots, a minor league in Bridgewater. He took lessons from many famous players. He developed an ESPN TV pilot called 7th Inning Stretch, which documented his dream to become a major league player at 50 years of age. The Smithereens do many charity concerts, including one each year at the St. Bart's Labor Day Festival. Pat DeNizzo, a man of many faces.
Thank you, my dear.
Right, so I invite Pat DeNizzo to the podium. I think this is it. Yeah, you can pull it out. You want to take it out? You want to do that? No.
Can you hear me? My grandfather came from Italy on December 6th of 1920 when he was 17 years old. There's something called Ancestry.com. You've seen it on TV. Someone sent me the manifest. He landed on Ellis Island, and he came immediately that day to Scotch Plains, and he never left. My father was born here. His brothers and sisters, all of my family, lived about a 3-minute walk from here. I was born and raised here and educated here from first grade through graduation year of high school. There are several folks here, like Mr. Schiller, who knew my dad very well. I never really wanted to live anywhere else but Scotch Plains. I never felt comfortable anywhere else, and I had envisioned an entirely different destiny for myself rather than being someone who has maintained a 35-year career as a rock and roller who had some success. I still live in Scotch Plains. This is where I will live till I die. And I have many very fond memories of high school, mostly of falling asleep in the back of the room and being yelled at by the teachers for drawing illustrations of guitars and amplifiers and dreaming, daydreaming in the back. But things have a way of working out. We've done a lot of things. We played Madison Square Garden. We played Carnegie Hall. We've been all over the world many times. We've gotten numerous awards. This is the greatest honor that I've ever had, is being honored in my hometown. I thank all of you very much for this. And things have a way of coming around. I'm a member of the Italian American Club, which my grandfather helped build in Scotch Plains. And we have meetings the first Tuesday of every month, but there's a lot of events. And there's this one gentleman who's also a Denizzo, and he's always busting my chops relentlessly. He's going, "Your name is not Denizio. There's no such a name in the Mondazzoli. There's only Denizzo." I said, "Wait a minute, my whole life my name is Pat Denizio." He goes, "You no name Denizio." He goes, "Only Denizzo." I went back and I looked at the manifest from when my grandfather came over from Mondazzoli in Italy, in Abruzzi, on December 6th of 1920. And his name is not Pasquale Denizio, but Pasquale Denizzo. So you don't have to change the name on the plaque, Doctor. I thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. So our next inductee is Malcolm Nettingham, and I actually had the pleasure to meet Malcolm about a year ago. He was here at school as a guest speaker. Tashira Wheeler, who's here this evening, introduced me to Malcolm and told me a little bit about Malcolm. So I walked away from that conversation and from meeting Mr. Nettingham thinking, whoa, if there's anyone that deserves to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, it's Malcolm Nettingham. So I believe Malcolm Jr. is here this evening. Yes, I met Malcolm the other day. We were looking for a picture. We have, as you noticed, or maybe you didn't, the pictures on the plaques are generally of the senior picture. So the inductees are forever young on the walls of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. But Malcolm, I'm guessing we probably didn't have your books the year you graduated, so we could not find a picture of Malcolm in his youth. Although in meeting Malcolm, he just got back from a cruise. I've never been on a cruise. He's inspired me. Maybe I should. So he's still living life to the fullest. So his son Malcolm is here. And then we'll get Malcolm up here as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Dr. Heise, and thank you, Ms. Lepard, for all of your efforts, what you do here in this high school and for the community. As you said, I am Malcolm Nettingham also. My father's Malcolm E. Nettingham. I'm Malcolm V. Nettingham. I thank you for allowing me to introduce the next recipient of this event of the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School Hall of Fame, Malcolm Nettingham. He is a resident of Scotch Plains, New Jersey. He graduated from Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, class of 1936. Malcolm was trained as a radio operator and a gunner on a B-25 of the 477 Composite Group during World War II. He is one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. In fact, he was one of the original 5 black servicemen chosen to break the color barrier in a segregated army as part of a research project formed by then President Harry S. Truman. Okay. The Tuskegee Airmen, if you didn't know, were a dedicated, determined group of young black Americans who became America's first black airmen. And at a time when there were many people who thought that black men lacked intelligence, skill, courage, and patriotism. The Tuskegee Airmen overcame segregation and prejudice to become one of the most highly respected fighter groups of World War II. They proved conclusively that African Americans could fly and maintain sophisticated combat aircraft. They paved the way for full integration of the U.S. military. In 2007, Malcolm Nettingham was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor Congress may award. Today, he is actively involved in the Metropolitan Baptist Church of Scotch Plains, sings in the choir, and has been a member of that church for more than 75 years. His wife, the late Lorena Coles Nettingham, of more than 70 years, transitioned to be with the Lord in May 2011. He has a son, Malcolm, of course, and a daughter, Deborah. He is the proud grandfather of 5 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. Malcolm Nettingham.
All right, so now we get to hear from Malcolm.
You know, when you get to be more than 39, you can't remember everything, so you have to write things down. Okay? But first of all, let me thank Malcolm for that, that glowing, wonderful introduction. I knew that I could count on him to say the right things so that people would think that I'm one of the good guys. And of course, by extension and through genes, then that makes him one of the good guys too. And then in the audience, I have a young lady named Deborah, who's my daughter, so she's part of the same mold. But speaking of the good guys and the good girls, I'm here to say to Scotch Plains Fanwood High School and to Dr. Heiser and to the Hall of Fame committee, thank you for selecting me to join you in your Hall of Fame. Now, I don't know a lot about the Scotch Plains Fanwood Alumni Hall of Fame, although I do personally know some of the members that have been inducted. But judging by the accomplishments and the integrity of those who have been inducted over the years, I am indeed honored to now be a part of such a prestigious organization. Sirs and Mesdames of the Scotch Plains Alumni Hall of Fame, it is my great pleasure to accept your gracious invitation. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nettingham. Thank you again, Mr. Nettingham. Okay, so we're going to move to our next inductee, Todd Robinson. And actually, Todd's mother is here, Willetta, and she's going to come up and speak for Todd. Todd's not able to be here this evening. I'm assuming Todd's in Guatemala. Okay, so so we will have Willetta talk about Todd. Thank you.
Okay. Microphone comes all the way down for me. It's just the way life goes. I'm Willetta Bacote. I live in Fanwood. I've been in Fanwood now 43 years. Todd, Mark, and Jeff Bacote all went to Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. So I'm pleased to be here in Todd's place. This is from Todd's statement as an ambassador designate to Guatemala before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, July 10th, 2014. I joined the Foreign Service in 1986, and since then, I have briefed Capitol Hill staff a number of times. Needless to say, this time is a little different. This time, I have the opportunity to acknowledge the support of my mother, Willetta Bacote, and my brothers, Mark Robinson and Jeffrey Bacote. They have been enormously influential in my career, and without their support and that of my friends and colleagues, I would not be before you today. Todd was confirmed by the United States Senate as U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Guatemala on September 16, 2014, and arrived in Guatemala City on October 10, 2014. Ambassador Robinson is a career diplomat with the rank of Minister Consular. Ambassador Robinson most recently served as Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. From 2009 until 2011, he served as Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Guatemala. Prior to that, he was Consul General and Principal Officer at the U.S. Consulate in Barcelona, Spain, and Chief of the Political and Economic Section in the U.S. Embassy in Tirana, Albania. Other overseas postings include the Dominican Republic, Bolivia, Vatican City, Italy, El Salvador, and Colombia. In Washington, D.C., Ambassador Robinson served in the State Department Operations Center and as a special assistant to former Secretary of State Albright. He is the recipient of 2 Department of State Superior Honor Awards. A native of New Jersey, Ambassador Robinson was a professional journalist before joining the Foreign Service. He is a proud graduate of the Georgetown University Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service, class of '85. Now, when I found out about this, I called Mark, and I called Jeff. Mark is in Hawaii, and Jeff is in Chicago. And I said, you know, is there anything you want me to say about Todd? And it's interesting, Mark said, too cool. Mention how proud we are of him. Don't leave out that he was the example of what a big brother should be. And then I got this from Jeff, and he said, that's cool. And I said, great minds think alike. He says, I can't think of anything you wouldn't, meaning me. And he said, you go, Mom. You can do this. And so then I asked Todd. Todd said to let everyone know that he's grateful for the education he received at Scotch Plains Fanwood High. He said, I could not have reached this far without it and the support of my friends and teachers. So on behalf of our whole family, thank you. Would be mortified about that picture that's there of him when he was in high school. And I didn't know what if they had gotten a picture of him. But this is Todd.
Thank you, Ms. Picotti. And Todd Robinson, by the way, a 1981 graduate of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. Okay, so our next inductee is Laura DiFrancesco Swiderski. You heard her at the start, at the opening of the program, president of the Alumni Association, and I believe Gail, who's here to? Is it Gail that's here to? Gail, is it pronounced Iozzi? Yes. Gail Iozzi is here, who will introduce Laura, and then Laura will have an opportunity to come up. So come on up, Gail. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Dr. Heiser, Aunt Laura, and other recipients. I'm very, very happy to be here and so very proud of my aunt. I am her niece. My aunt is a woman who has had over 70 years of volunteer experience in the town of Scotch Plains Fanwood. She loves Scotch Plains. She loves God. She loves her family. And each of those loves is manifested in some of the things that she's done. Mrs. Leopard asked me if I would be kind enough to introduce my aunt. And I said, yes. She said, you know, I do have some notes. I said, okay, and when I went to gather those notes, there were pages of everything that my aunt has done. And I'm going to tell you a little vignette about her. Like Pat Denizzo, my great-grandfather came from Italy as well, settled in Scotch Plains from Ellis Island, lived on Cook Avenue. My aunt was born and raised here, and yes, she still is here and has always lived here because she loves this town. Many of her cousins were on Cook Avenue, and at 3.5 years old, my grandmother told the story that she followed her cousins down the street to go to school. And my grandmother said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "School." She said, "You can't go to school, you're too young." But once my aunt did hit that school, she never stopped. She has done so many things for the benefit of this town, and I'd just like to delineate some of those for you. She has worked as the public information officer for the Office of Emergency Management in Scotch Plains, the member of Union County Senior Providers Network. She has been the secretary-treasurer of the Meridian Senior Club, the chairperson of the Senior Advisory Committee. She also is the president of the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School Alumni Association and has been for, over 10 years? 15, okay. A member of the Board of Trustees of the Senior Citizen Housing Committee. She, in fact, worked with Tom Atkins to institute the first medical transport system for our seniors, to take them to doctor's appointments, to take them for x-rays, testing, and that still is in operation today. And my aunt was awarded Volunteer of the Year for Scotch Plains in 2003. Yes, I believe. And at that time, I have something that she said, because it still holds true today, and this is how she lives her life. And she said that no one has ever called for her assistance and she has turned them down. She really is committed to making people's lives better, especially the seniors. As the township employee of the millennium, she was awarded a resolution by Scotch Plains Township. There are multiple certificates of appreciation, but what I really want to let you know is that her integrity, her love of this town is what drives her. She continues to do so. Scotch Plains, Fanwood has always been her love. And as a 1944 graduate of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, as working her whole life, it is my honor, my family's honor, with my mom, my husband, her son Greg, husband Raymond, that we are so very proud of you for this wonderful award. So I introduce Laura Swiderski, my aunt.
Before I start, I just want to make one announcement. Willetta Bacote didn't look years ago when she taught tennis for the Scotch Plains Recreation Department under me. Willetta, where are you? There she is. She was my tennis teacher and team booster and everything. Okay, I just want to start with my grandfather came from the same town in Mudatsili as Mr. Denizzo. He bought property between Cook Avenue and Montague Avenue and had 6 children, boys, and 2 daughters. 5 of the boys had homes built, barn raising style, lived in those houses in Scotch Plains till they all passed away. My mother's house on Cook Avenue is still rented, and my son bought a house next door to that, again on Cook Avenue. My mother went into labor in her own home. Unfortunately, she was having a bad time. The doctor came. At that time, they did make house calls, and forgot all about me working on my mom. This 3.5-pound infant, me, was almost dead. My great-grandmother, who was a midwife, delivered babies around for a chicken, a bushel of apples, whatever. The doctor said, "Where's the infant?" And she said, "Here." Well, unfortunately, my mother had to go to Muhlenberg Hospital, and I had to be brought with her. So my birth certificate says I was born in Plainfield, New Jersey, but I wasn't. I was born right here in Scotch Plains. And Gail told a lot about my accomplishments, which were part of my job. But once I retired, my main focus has been on senior citizens. They're very lonely people. A lot of times their children and grandchildren move God knows where and forget about them home. And so when they call on me, if I don't know the answer to their problem, I can steer them to the right person because of my affiliations with so many senior organizations. And I'm proud to do that. As long as I have the health and energy, I'm going to keep doing it. But you've heard enough speeches tonight. So I just want to leave you with some words, okay? Few of us are mindful of time. When we realize our time here is very short, we try to speed it up. But you know what? We can't. We get caught in the whirl. So, whatever time I have left, I will do my best to help everyone, whether it's my family, my relatives, my neighbors, and finally my community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up tonight. We've inducted 8 outstanding people into our Hall of Fame, and I can tell you that there are many outstanding people out there in the world that graduated from Scotch Plains Fanwood High School that we could induct in future Hall of Fames and future induction ceremonies. So I do want you to spread the word. The application for nominating, and anyone can nominate an individual for the Hall of Fame. We have applications here. They're also on the high school website. You can give me a phone call, and I'll mail you an application. But we do this annually, and I already have 2 names for next year, and I'm sure we will add to that. So I thank all of you for being here. Congratulations to the inductees and their families, and there are refreshments. So thank you again.